All right. I don't even remember.
Episode 28, maybe? I think 28.
I think you're right. Like,
We're high 20s.
Should look at this before we start.
High 20s, it's good.
Welcome to the good stuff. Episode 28.
28, assuming.
The big episode 28, biggest yet.
Big episode 28.
Like usual jokes.
I mean, that's why people are here.
But
come for the humour, stay for a little bit of AI.
But we're back in the van. We're back at the beach, and it's an
back
absolutely glorious day here. Yes, and back in person.
Back in person.
So for the recording in person for the first time in about 2 months now.
Yeah,
So
solid.
This is good. So hopefully, just be much better flow than
Maybe.
it's been. Although I am a tad jet lagged still. So.
How is that? Recovering well?
Yeah, like it's fine. I actually slept most of the night last night. So
Did we
that's
ever
good.
disclose the location on the pod? I can't remember because we talked about it being an undisclosed
Madeira.
pod. Okay.
Yeah, no, we started talking about it being an undisclosed location, and then we got Jeff on as well, and
That's
he
true.
was talking about it. And
Oh, that's right.
cracking about Madeira.
Yeah.
So
Good.
yeah, it was good. Like, I like Madeira.
It's a long way to Madeira.
Nice place. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Excellent. That's what we want. It looked pretty.
It is nice. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I missed grass. There's not like tons of grass there, but it's quite green. Like so, I mentioned to the wife, it's just like it feels kind of urban and not very green. She's like, there's trees everywhere. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, okay, there's trees, but there's no grass. Like I'm used to maybe a lot more grass over here, and I missed sand beaches, for God's sake. Like,
Yeah.
Pebble beaches, you just feel like such a moron getting in and out of
Yeah.
the sea. You've got these like little slippy pebbles, you can't balance.
Trying to balance on it,
anything.
yeah.
Especially when you come out and you've been laid down in the sea for a while, and then you come out and you're just like, oh God, I feel like I'm just learning to walk like a goat that's just been born.
It is something we take for granted in Australia, is
Yeah.
the quality of the beach. I mean, like, it is just so good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're doing a bit of like tourism WA's work on their behalf at the moment, just promoting the beaches in Perth. But if you're ever out this way, go and check out the beaches. You'll probably enjoy it.
Well, it's like, we're at City Beach here, right? And it's absolutely glorious. It's flat as a pancake today. It looks beautiful out there. And this is like the shit beach
Yeah.
that nobody really comes
Is
to.
it? I mean, it's probably not one of the
considered
tier
like,
ones, is
kind
it?
of, I mean,
Yeah.
you're more likely to go to Cottesloe than
Yeah.
you are here because it's just a little bit more interesting.
There's more to do.
There's a reef off to the side. You've got the net for swimming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it brings people in. There's a bit more. it's
People
just
go
more
up to
famous. Or
Scarborough,
Scarborough,
yeah.
like Scarborough Trig up there. Now you're into like your surfing beaches. So there's
Yeah.
a bit more reason. Or a bit further, Marmion, you've got your reefs and your rock pools and stuff for snorkeling. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Well, Tourism WA, if you're listening, we'll take that check.
friends of the pod.
Very
Yeah.
good. Where should we kick off today?
Oh, I got no idea. I don't know. Look, I've been big on Wingman V2 at the moment,
Yeah.
so this has been my big push. Is I got a lot out of Wingman, and I was kind of before I went to Sovereign Engineering, I was sort of building it, so I had it there to use.
Yeah.
And then as I was there, like there's a few things about it that I was like, like now I'm using it a lot. Like I changed this, I changed that, and so like almost like the moment I was leaving, I was just started pulling out like the whole, I don't know, like the engine of the thing,
Yeah.
like in the airport, and I was like, I'm probably just gonna rewrite this whole thing from scratch.
Yeah.
And so now there's a V2, so it's kind of weird because in between flights and hanging out with my parents for a few days, I'd get like a couple of hours here and there, and I was able to pull together like a workable version very quickly. It was like, it was good. So,
Yeah. Happy with that.
yeah, and then now I'm like looking into like one of the things that I've always wanted it to do. So it's always had this notion of like triggers where you could like, you run an agent and then you get it to do something, and then you run an agent from an API call, is the idea. And as soon as you can do that, then you can set up like all the context for it and all the various different things that it needs to know.
Yeah.
And you can then just have it run on schedules and do jobs for you and stuff like that. And then because it runs from a trigger, you can also have the agent then trigger a different thing, which could also be another agent. So at that point, you can start to do like flows and pipelines of these things that go together. And I think this is going to be a very like important primitive. So I've been experimenting with that like a little bit yesterday afternoon and this morning, just to get everything up and running. So like there's some stuff I want to think through a little bit carefully. Like I want like a convention-based approach to this. So
What's the like, I'm just going to interrupt you. Like, just let's assume that like we've got a brand new listener that hasn't tuned in before on, you know, on episode 20. What did we say? 28.
Who starts on episode 28?
28 exactly.
Go back to number 1. Just listen to them all.
Listen to binge them. Enjoy yourselves.
But get through it in like a week because you don't want to fall behind.
Just in case.
You
there might be one.
You got to be knocking out like at least one a day.
That's solid progress if you pull that off. But let's assume, right? There's one person out there. What's like the TLDR for what Wingman is?
Wingman is the tagline for Wingman is Solvitur ambulando,
Yes.
which is a great phrase, which means effectively means solved by walking.
Yes.
It's like, and it comes from. This is not a TLDR. It comes from like a desire of mine is like these AI agents are like amazing and they can do a lot of work for you. And I found it extremely frustrating that while they did work for me, I had to sit in front of a computer.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck this. So step one was like, okay, how can I remotely access these agents? Which quickly became, how can I remotely access a team of these agents?
Yeah.
Which quickly then became like, all right, well, what is the software that I should use to orchestrate all these agents to do tasks on my behalf? So really, Wingman is that agent orchestration software.
Yeah.
It's not really competing with like Claude Code or Codex or Goose or any of these things. It uses all of those.
Yeah.
So we have built in at the moment, I would actively use in there Gemini, Claude Code, Goose, Open Code, and Codex interchangeably for different tasks, each one for what they're good at. They're all set up, they're all available from anywhere from my phone.
Yeah.
And then the bit that I really want to like nail is like, how can I build processes with these things so that they can just run without me having to press go or give them information.
Just on Rails.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then long term, I think this becomes like where we deploy businesses too. It's like, I think Wingman should just run the business.
Yeah, and I think the bit I would add that I find really interesting about it is it's predicated on you giving these agents their own computer.
Yeah. Yeah, like you've got to be aware that like, if you run these things on your computer, like they have access to everything.
Everything, yeah.
Like, and you can attempt to lock it down, but like you can have it run in a folder. You say, okay, well now can I read this file? And it's like, well, no, because like these things can write code and then run it on your computer. So they just have access to everything. And the easiest thing to do is to just like physically sandbox them. Yeah. And say, you're on this machine, and I have just not put anything on this machine that I care about. Like all of my private keys that I care about aren't here. Like, here's some that I don't care about. You can run these. Like, here's some other services that I run. That's okay. But you can read anything from the file system. I don't care. Yeah, they're going to be way more useful in the same way that I think if you've got an employee, like again, like we were saying like yesterday, like I think that another tagline for Wingman could be, that new employee could have been a Wingman. Yeah, it's like, do you really want to spend like a couple $100,000 hiring somebody here, like with all your rolled in costs, or would you just prefer the output?
Yeah. Yeah, and like hiring a new person, you're going to set them up and onboard them with a new machine.
You buy them a machine, you buy them this, you buy them that, you get them like, access to all these SaaS accounts.
Yeah.
I don't think you really need to do that for Wingman. You can delegate that stuff and you set up the API keys once. It's not too bad. Yeah. But I think it makes a lot of sense to give it its own computer and like allow it to do stuff inside that space. So that's the idea with Wingman. Maybe it would make sense to make Wingman its own employee and give it its own Google account or whatever, and like has access to the docs instead of trying to go through the APIs. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's interesting timing as well for Wingman, because like I mean a bunch of people have reached out over the last few weeks going, oh, this sounds really interesting, how do we have a look at it? And I think that's all good validation, but I think like the big bit of validation has actually come from Anthropic this week, because they've just released Claude Code on mobile. Well, it's on iOS and on the web. Yeah. And so I do think like this will just
remote access Claude Code, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I've not actually tried it personally. I actually quite like the CLI. Like, I like playing in that environment. But I kind of also get the premise of being able to step away and do this work on the go and on the phone. Because again, this is kind of like loosely mirroring how we might work with other humans. So it kind of makes sense that we'd want to be able to work in a similar way with agents. Yeah. Which I think is quite a nice, like, human-centered approach to working with AI. Yeah. But so this feels like it's a really nice bit of timing that aligns, because like this will just get people used to the idea of being able to access Claude Code on the web or on mobile, and it'll start to feel a bit more native. And then like the logical next step, I think for most people will be, well, it'd be cool if I could use like all of the models and have them all talking to each other and having them run through different processes.
Well, I mean, as we saw about 4 weeks ago, right? Claude Code just lobotomized itself.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, I just didn't
use
it for like 3 weeks. Like even now, like it's changed my behavior. Like I would always like previously I might have gone to like Goose or Claude Code originally.
Yeah.
And then I just stepped away. I just stopped using it almost completely. I downgraded all my plans for it because I was like, oh, I'm only using it every now and again. I don't need the main plan anymore. So
yeah, me too. But now it seems to be not bad again. So it's you know, you want that flexibility. I think you want to be able to just interchange these agents, swap them out where you need to.
Well, I think the other thing I want to start to figure out is like, where is it good because of the capability of the agent, and where is it good because of the capability of the model?
Yeah.
So, like particularly in something like Claude Code, it has a lot of like good code editing stuff, but you could drive it from a much cheaper model that's like 10 times cheaper or 50 times cheaper, just via using sort of open source models. And there are ways to then hack that into the Claude Code API base. So instead of using your Claude Code API key, we can use like a local router, which then pushes it off to Open Router in the background and gives you access to like any of the open source models. And something like that, I think, is quite interesting. Yeah. Because I'd be curious to see like, okay, well, how much of this is this good because you've actually got a good agent framework here that I can work with, and I can put in a much cheaper model and get similar results. Just as fast. Like that would be useful. So that's one to look at, I think, as well.
Completely. Yeah. But I think it's nice. Like I honestly, not to like stress on the point, but I do think that the timing is everything with some of these things, and you can always be a bit too early because most people haven't realized that I need to be able to swap out models for different things. But also, like if you just imagine the kind of technical risk you're taking on if you're using these for like commercial processes as well, and all of a sudden the model gets completely lobotomized, then it's like, oh well, we've just built this entire process on Sonnet 4.5 and it's been neutered now. What do we do? Yeah. So you do want that flexibility, I think, commercially as well. And this is coming back to your point. I think Wingman, as the rails to run the business, I think is really interesting because you've just got that flexibility, that interoperability.
Yeah, and like what it might be is that I would use, so I mean I do use this for coding as well because it can do a lot whilst I'm out and about. But it's for business activities. I'd be probably like Goose is good as a general purpose agent. So there's two like Goose and Open Code are both fully open source agent frameworks. That can be used in there, and both of those can be backed by whatever model you want. So I think that's like, if I was for business operations, I'd be more likely to deploy them on Goose and Open Code because I'm like, okay, well now I know that this isn't going to change under me. Yeah. Like if you change the code in Goose, at least I can see it. Yeah, true. I can see what's going on. I could you can either have the model just keep up with all the diffs for you and just give you a report on anything that's meaningfully changed. You just won't ever see that. In Claude.
You want that optionality, don't you, ultimately?
I think there's a real risk for this sort of stuff. Yeah. So again, this is like I think this is another way that Wingman wins. I'm very happy with this. This has been my main interface for using agents for like a little while. Like in software engineering, because when I was doing like heavy coding, I would just spin it up in the CLI and just work there. And then I would use Wingman to access those like teamwork sessions from elsewhere, which is useful as well. But now it's the whole thing is integrated into like Wingman. So if you like working in the CLI, it actually spins up separate like emulated sessions in the background, as well as giving you the web access. So you can, if you want to just get right into the actual agent session as you normally would, it's all there for you. It doesn't preclude anything. So I think it's quite a nice setup. I'm very pleased with where it's at. Like as I said, like I think it's going to really pay off when you start building in these different like workflows where it's like you can get an agent to do something, but I think if you can they're better when they have limited scope. So you can have something that's kind of like a subjective scope, but they can do it in like I don't know, a minute or something like that, and that might be like 40 different calls. To like just map all that out into a process and run it is quite arduous. Whereas to give it like a little bit of flexibility but a goal, and then the goal ends up like writing a file, or it ends up triggering an endpoint or something like this.
So less deterministic.
Well then, yeah, because now I can then just have file watchers that say, okay, well when I want this to run, it's going to output a file here. Then you pick up that file, and then you read your local instructions on what to do, sort of thing. And then, so what I really want is almost like a file system based way of programming this, where, you know, it would look similar to anybody that used to, yeah, I remember like back in the early 2000s when we were running projects, and you just have a shared file system, and there's like a convention to how it all lays out. It's like, okay, well, here's your project documentation, and like, you know, you've got your initiation documents, and you've got your plan and everything. You know where everything's supposed to be, and you go in and read it. Like, I think this is what we want the agents to do. They're very good at reading stuff that's on a file system. They're very good at writing stuff to a file system. And I think we can just make it where there's a process, but the process just looks like a set of folders and instructions that are all perfectly human readable. And then we program these things like that. And they just pass tasks to each other. They just say, like, I'm going to sit here, and I've got a watcher on this file, and if a file appears here, then this runs. Yeah. And I think that's where we want to set this up. So I think this will be quite powerful when it's up and running. I know it's a similar approach that Gigi took to his Vibe line stuff as well. It's all file system conventions. You drop a file somewhere and bang, like stuff happens. Yep. Like, as you know, you drop an audio file here, we transcribe it, and then we summarize it, and then we send this off. Or you drop a podcast in here, it gets published directly to Nostr. All this sort of stuff can be automated in the background. You just need like an interface for setting it all up.
Yeah, and that feels like a nice environment that you could build within a Wingman Mac Mini as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the sort of thing, because this is where it, like, I mean, we've been talking about like is this the sort of thing you can SaaS or not? Because it would make it so much easier for people to understand this if they could just get on and use it. Yeah. And you can. It's all there. It's open source. Like, just download it and run it. Yeah. And I've in the rebuild, I've made it a lot easier to do that. There's one bit that'll fuck everybody up because the binary's not included. Like, so I need a script for that. But apart from that,
it's going to keep everyone on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You got to figure out what binary I'm using in the background. But the whole thing, like, it's hard to understand without using it. And then it's hard. It's weird to think that, like, well, surely Pete doesn't have a software system that he's written that is better than just ChatGPT, and it's like, no, I do. Yeah. Because Codex is kind of better than that, but you've got to be like nerdy enough to run it in a terminal to understand this. Yeah. Whereas on mine, you don't. Yeah. And it will just run and get stuff done on your behalf. And I actually think it is better than ChatGPT. It can do all the same things.
Yeah, and those are the obstacles to implement, like, to adoption and then to implementation in like practical ways. Because a lot of people, especially non-technicals, will look at it and just go, CLI too complex, not going to bother. Yeah. You know. Let me find someone else to do that.
I mean, there's ways around it, like where people have home machines that they would run Docker on and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, if you're happy to do that, we could deliver it via a Docker interface, and it would just spin up on whatever you've got available inside the machine. It's not obvious to me that if I did it in a SaaS interface that I wouldn't ruin the nature of the thing. Yeah. Like, the fact that it has its own computer is almost the thing. Yeah.
Also, I remember us talking about this pretty early on. Again, for that one person who's just joined us in episode 28, go back to like episode 1 or 2 or whenever we talked about this. But I feel like for a lot of the technology, the vector isn't. The vector is actually the business. Like, it's the delivery mechanism is the business. It's not the technology itself. Yeah. It's not, the idea isn't to just like. It is not the SaaSification of like AI. It's like there are all of these other businesses through which you can go and capture the value of the technology, and that's like a way more effective deployment of that technology than trying to sell a bit of software that's an inch deep and a mile wide.
Yeah. In terms of 1 or 2 wingmans per business,
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, one maybe is
one maybe
enough. It's just like one really competent employee.
Depends.
So maybe there is like because. Again, like we've been talking about this, it's like at the moment it is just kind of like my assistant, and it makes sense to me that it should be like at least our assistant. Yeah. But then does that mean we just need 2? Do we have a wingman each?
We might
per person.
We might not.
Or do we have multiple sessions on one wingman?
Yeah.
So there is some. Yeah, like, and it's. I think somebody commented on the Sorry, I don't know what your username was off the top of my head, but I think I've seen you comment on a few of them, so thank you.
Yes.
Friend of the pod. Yeah, keep commenting. We do like the comments. Like we're not so great at realizing they happen, particularly the last few.
Haven't been getting the notifications lately, but we will check.
From
and if you've got things you want us to cover off,
say that because it's useful to
drop us a line in the comments of like stuff you'd like us to explore, and we'll dive in.
But enough of diversion there.
Yes.
What were they saying? Like, they said like, well, wouldn't the multiplayer mode kind of ruin it? And it's like maybe. Like that's what I don't get. Is like, is it? I don't think it works in a SaaS context. I just don't think it makes sense for this. You lose a lot of the power of what you've got.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to effectively have it as like an employee.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense to me that multiple people could talk to that employee.
Yes. Just like a regular business.
So you could have like multiple people can log in to Wingman, and then you just see different sessions depending on who's in there. So you can see your sessions, I can see my sessions, I could share my sessions with you, and then we could both like talk to Wingman inside the same thing. Like that might make sense.
I mean, it's not dissimilar really to having an employee in a company where that employee like will take work from multiple other direct reports. That happens all the time.
Yep.
And one direct report will not necessarily know what another direct report has given that employee to do. It's up to the employee to juggle the workload and figure out what they can do, what they can't do. So, it's not dissimilar in that respect. It is kind of like a nice human-centered approach to, like it's not like such a big deviation from like how we would structure work in a workplace now, which I think like sometimes this is the challenge with AI. It's like everything is like abstraction. Yeah. And it's hard for people to grok because it's like you're just trying to like project out into the future. Like, well, I'm guilty of this all the time, where you just like you start to perceive like entirely new architectures for business, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, like this might be like a bridge too far for most people. Let's just like actually architect it the way we've architected businesses in the past. We're just replacing the units of intelligence in the business.
And if you think about it, we're very good at bringing people into businesses. We're not very good at putting businesses into other places. It's kind of like I've not really thought about this before, but it is a bit of a weird paradigm to think like, all right, well, I'll take all of my business and I will just put it on somebody else's computer, as opposed to putting a computer in your business.
Yeah.
I always used to say with Bitcoin and versus shitcoins, right? Like Ethereum, as you would say, like, a shitcoin like Ethereum just like gets a fundamental thing wrong and then runs hard with it.
Yeah.
And it would be something like Bitcoin was programmable money. And the idea is you have money, but because it's like internet and computer native, you can run a program with it. You can run a program and then you can move the money. It's money and you run a program and the program interacts with the money. That's great. And Ethereum went, but what if the money was a program? And you're like, no. You're the wrong way around here. Like this is like the horse like just pushing the cart. Like you're incorrect. This is like saying like, we've got a vending machine, we put money in the vending machine and it automates and does something, and they go, but what if right, we put the vending machine in the money? And you're like, no. Like, no, you're wrong. You're the wrong way around. You've done the wrong thing. Don't. Like, it might seem useful, but you just inherited all sorts of problems. You want the money to be money and the program to be programs, and I think it is kind of weird that we've just spent like 10 years putting stuff in the cloud, which is really just somebody else's computer. And it's like you're putting all of your business into somebody else's computer. That's kind of weird, because for the 30 years before that, we just put computers in the business. Like, why don't we just put the computer in the business? Because it's really kind of like we have ways of doing this that make sense to people. Like, you hire a person, you put them in a chair and they have a computer and they can see the stuff because they're there.
Exactly.
They can talk to people because they're there. It's like, well, maybe that's like maybe that is what we should be doing with these things. We shouldn't be like, because all of a sudden you have all these security concerns, you have all these access things. It's like, well, what are we copying up there? What are we not copying up there? Like, how do we do this? You lose a lot of control over your business. And it's like, if it's a computer that's in your business, you're like, all right, there it is. Like, it's gone rogue, hammer. Like, it's off, plug. Like, I can deal with this. This is,
Well, every business can conceive of how they're meant to hire another human. That's like a regular process within a business, and they do this all the time. And so, instead of saying, well, all the humans are going away, and what's going to happen is we're going to just like convert the entire business to run inside of a computer, we're just going to say, well, why don't you just hire computers? That's really just the shift in framing. The process doesn't need to really change all that much.
Yeah.
And I think this is like part of the challenge with this stuff. It's just abstraction. Like, it's really hard for people to get their heads around what this kind of fuzzy future is going to be. And also, like, all of us, you know, ourselves included, we love to speculate on the future. And we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. And so it's, you know, they're just predictions. So it's really hard to go into a business and say to someone, oh, you know this thing that you've got that makes money? Yeah, you should like deconstruct that today, and you should build this future thing that is emerging over there that we haven't yet fully conceived of, but we think we've got a reasonable idea that this is what it's going to look like. And I can understand why people just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They're just like, especially now, it's like the impetus isn't there, the motivation isn't there. I've got the thing that's already printing money for all. I mean, if it's going well, it's making money. Like you don't really want to mess with that. There's more risk baked into that.
And I think there's a little bit of like humbling there for us as well, where we looked at, I think very early on we were like, no, the answer to this is probably it's like human at the edge. We go that way first. You need to remove the processes, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like the thing that has really been like powerful for me is something like Wingman, where I am in the process. It's like when I build stuff with these tools, I don't divorce myself from the process, because if I do, then I just lose all intuition for what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then when something goes wrong, I'm like, well, I don't really know why it went wrong. So it's inevitably like I can't take one step back and fix it and then carry on. Whereas when I'm involved, I'm like, all right, that's the thing that broke. All right, scrap that, it's gone. So I can throw away the work because it's cheap, but it's way easier for me to throw away like 10 minutes work than it is to throw away like 5 hours work or a day's work or a week's work, which is what can happen if you've just got no, you know, you could be running a system where you're vibe coding it completely, for instance. You've been doing really great for like 2 weeks and then it goes wrong.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you've lost 2 weeks of work. And you're like, shit, I don't know like which bit of this like fucked it up. And it could be that, you know, maybe you can like rewind a commit or something, but you're like, well, but the problem is I don't know what the architecture of the thing is underneath this. Yeah. So it could be that like, yes, that commit broke it, but it's actually just the straw that broke the camel's back.
True.
Like it's just because it's got bad architecture. Where if you're involved and you're dictating like what's going where, how everything's structured, like what does what, you kind of know that you're on a firm base by the end of it. You don't need to know like what all the code says, but you kind of need an intuition for what it does.
Yeah.
I think if you remove yourself too far, you just can't use anything long term.
Yeah. I think the other lesson that's baked into that is the difficulty, I think, for most of this stuff, whether it's like product development or whether it's building a business, it's like often baked into the last mile, you know, like a lot of the friction and a lot of the difficulty tends to emerge there. That's why that like last 5% of it tends to take the longest. It requires the greatest commitment. It's when you're most likely to kind of bug out if it's not quite coming together.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just the same risk. You've still got this last mile problem where you need to actually go and spend 10 times the amount of time in that last 5% that you might have in the prior 95%, because you've got to iron everything out there. But you're right. I also think that the ability to go from 0 to 95% in a fraction of the time is just super valuable. Yeah. That's the other side of that coin.
Yep.
And this is like I can speak to this like because like most of my projects like end up like this, where I get it to like the 95% and I'm just like, the amount of work I need to now put into that last mile to get this like into like it'll work for me, you know, like it works at a current like at a level that is adequate.
Yeah.
But that last 5% just will require like all of my time and focus for the next like 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And inevitably I'll go, there's this other idea I've got. Let me just go and like go from 0 to 95 on that one.
Well, and it's okay to just build stuff for yourself and then go, all right, this is good enough for now. Because you can always come back to it later.
Exactly.
Like,
which is what happens.
Yeah. But I mean, I agree. Like, and it's more that like I wouldn't want to say for something like vibe coding. Like, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do. Like, it makes a lot of sense for your prototyping stuff, and it makes a lot of sense in like small vibes, like small vibes inside a slow code sort of thing is kind of the like, what's this like there's a Red Dwarf episode on Hollow Ship where the woman is talking to Rimmer And she says you make love like a Chinese meal. Was it small portions but so many quarters? Yeah. Just like maybe it's like that, small portions and a lot of quarters. Yeah. Just like you should, you need to like you vibe all the little bits. Like don't look at the code for a lot of this stuff. Just like describe how it's supposed to do. Be testing constantly, and like keep committing, keep on top of like what's happening, understand what's happening. But you just move really quickly with it because you never get to a point where you have to throw it all away. But then in other areas, I'm just experimenting. And it's like, if I want to experiment with something that I don't really understand, I think it's absolutely fine to just throw up like 20 different versions of a project and just let them go. And then just try them all out and see which one you like best. And then go, okay, I like this aspect of it. Like describe to me how you've done this. And then you like almost reverse engineer a plan. And then you would go and build it properly with a bit more understanding of the thing.
Yeah. So I think that's where the actual big shift occurs in like enterprise, because that decision making, like deciding where to allocate the resource because the resource was expensive, was always like profit animus or margin animus. It's like, how do we know before we actually commit the time, the effort, and the resources to this that it's actually going to generate a rate of return that is appropriate?
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, hang on, that's not the animus to view this through. You can just go and run like 10 series. In the time you've spent talking about it and meeting about it, you could have run like 20 different experiments.
That meeting could have been a prototype.
Yeah, that meeting could have been a wingman.
It could have
just given a goal. And
that wingman could be in a meeting, which is another thing. Maybe we should talk about that as well.
You know, that I think is the key difference. It's like, you are just hiring units of intelligence in the same way that you've hired units of intelligence in the past. It's just in the past, the form factor was a human. Now the form factor is an agent. And that just means that you can run these experiments like ad nauseum because you can get to, X% of a project way faster, way cheaper. But you don't actually need to change like how you'd go about executing all that much. And so the actual fabric of the business doesn't need to change.
I don't think that's true. I would probably question that a little bit.
Yeah, go on.
So my point here would be, a lot of people, if I think of Perth, right? Perth has a bunch of oil and gas companies, a bunch of mining companies, like large institutions that would then have some internal IT stuff, but largely outsourced IT creation, systems integrators, and all these people. And like what we're talking about here is a very like almost super agile way of working where you would just go like almost straight to prototypes, but it really doesn't work that well in a consulting outsourced systems integrated paradigm.
That's true.
Because if I come and really it's about like value perception type stuff, whereas if I can come in a week and I can create what appears to look like a working version of a product that does what you want, and we can iterate on it in like say 2 weeks, you've got an answer to like, all right, this is exactly what I want. Are you gonna give that away? Like, can I then come back to you and say, all right, this is gonna cost you 400 grand, and you'd be like, but I've got it, it's here. You're gonna miss out like a lot of that stuff. So the way I think you should think about something like that is like, okay, you need to think about your delivery process here, because you have the opportunity now to go to not spend 6 months inside like a systems design, like documentation, like heavy process to figure out what you want to build and guessing at what you think it might be. Instead, you can build something, be hands-on with it and testing it. And then that is the thing that specifies it. But you've got to be aware that when you've like got to that point, it really is a throwaway thing that you're building. You cannot necessarily go and deploy this in the business, and it will have a big price tag afterwards. And that is just a hard thing to sell from like a consulting angle, to be like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to build the thing, it's going to appear to work, and then we're going to throw it away, and then we're going to charge you like $500,000 and take a year to build it properly, and you're like, nah.
No, I agree with that. I think I guess like,
but my point is that it's not that you don't change your process. I think you do. I think you have to change the process. But the bit you've changed is that documentation became a build cycle. The build cycle is probably still the build cycle at the end of it.
Yeah.
It probably is a lot quicker because you're informed now by a lot of actual constraints that you figured out in the demo.
Yeah, I think maybe process was the wrong. I was thinking more like the fabric of the organization, which is like how you set up and how you structure the organization, roles, responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think in terms of delivery, yeah, definitely. Like your thinking around that needs to change, and I think this is maybe where some of the inertia comes from, because it's like, oh, we've got this like new technology, we'll just like throw it into existing processes the way we did with like digital transformation projects in the past, and all that does is just add like tech bloat. So and like often just makes things less efficient and more frustrating to actually try to like work alongside. But I think the challenge sometimes, I mean, I'm guilty of this, like trying to almost re-architect the firm, you know. It's like we've almost like tried to come up with a new theory of the firm for AI, and it's like, well, maybe that will emerge in the fullness of time, but right now it's like you don't need to necessarily make the leap to a whole new operating system for the business. It could just be that you treat this thing as a new form factor for intelligence, and you use it the same way you would in the past, and maybe you don't actually need to go and outsource all of this stuff either. You know, the 400 grand price tag for a consulting project is going to be hard to sell for something that you could bake in a week. But
I
do you
think
need
the thing
to?
is you can't bake it in a week. You can bake like, it's like you can bake the impression of a cake.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
But you can't make a good cake.
Yep.
Like the good cake still takes time.
That's it. Yep.
But you could pretend you've made a cake to the point where you can go, yeah, okay, this is the sort of cake I want. And you go, can I eat this? And you're like, no, this is poison. Like, it's just like, don't eat this. Like, we'll make a proper cake now. But that's still hugely valuable.
Definitely.
I just think it's not the sort of thing that I think
But you can see the
people
impression
will
of the
buy
cake.
here. If you know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the impression of the cake there is something that you can visualize through your own eyes,
Yeah.
because you can see the
I
impression.
absolutely agree with
Whereas
why
in
it's
the
valuable.
in the past, it's like, I will just tell you what the impression of the
we're
cake
going to
will be
describe
like.
a cake. This is how we've
And
done
there's
software for years. It's like, I will describe a cake for 6 months.
Yeah.
And you'll tell me how much it's going to cost. And it's like, all right, that's one way of doing it. Or we could bake some small cakes.
Small cake, yeah, exactly.
And that was the
yeah.
other way. It's like, okay, let's bake lots of little small cakes and then see as we go. But then that just, half the problem with like Agile was just, it kind of works, but it has to be an internal thing. Like if you outsource this, you just lose control of your systems integrators and your projects. Like it seems blatantly obvious. It should do, but it's seemingly not, because it's not how everybody contracted stuff for the last 5 years. But
yeah. But I mean, so this is why I'm like super bullish on Wingman, because I feel like this is the bridge for like more traditional businesses, like the kinds of people that we bump into all the time that remind me that like we kind of live in a little bubble sometimes when we're just talking about AI and we're playing with the tools, and you realize, oh wow, no one else is really, outside of like a cohort on Twitter, no one else is really thinking about this stuff too much. There's still like a prevailing view that this is a bubble and we'll just wait it out. And
I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I should really like let my wife use this. Like, it's just like, this is better than what you use.
Literally in the same house.
You just like, it's like, well, if I got this tool and you don't, like, it's just, or let the kids use it, sort of thing, and just be like, right, guys, you need to learn how to use this.
Every home needs a Wingman.
Yeah, like, but then again, that then becomes like the multi-user problem.
Yeah, true.
I think it's like partly philosophically, I don't know quite what the answer is to that. I think it is just like, Wingman is its own almost like sovereign thing, and then you can have accounts on Wingman, but it needs to be like a local Wingman. It's not like anybody can access Wingman, because it is one set of agents. Like, so if you think about the if you put it into the cloud, right, you have this question all of a sudden of like, okay, well, how am I doing billing for something like this? And then like, okay, so my Wingman just runs my Claude Code subscription because it's mine. Now, if I share that with like the wife and kids, like they're not gonna blow that out. If you put it on the internet, and you have like anybody can use it. All right, we just go through the restrictions on it in like about 20 minutes. Like, this is just gonna blow through. So I can't do that. So now I have to like have other people bring their bring their credentials, or we need to like move everything into an API model and manage billing, or we need this like. I don't know if I want any of that complexity. That sounds very mid-curve. Like, I could just left curve this and say, no, just run your own computer and set up your agents, put your key in it, it's fine. And like, so I think maybe it is something like that where you have like sessions and different people that can access it. Maybe with some sort of like, I'd probably just use Nostr keys, because there's something amazing about just being able to take somebody's pub key and say, you now have access. Like, do I have to set up your account? No, you've already got an account. It exists elsewhere. I just point at it and say that account can use it.
Yeah.
And then there's like a whole bunch of infrastructure that just takes care of everything. It's like, nice. Like this, I mean, that should be the standard in like any small business. Is like you should not be running your own infrastructure for managing people's identities, and it's just, you should just be saying, who are you on Nostr? All right, cool, you've got access now.
Done.
You can do it before they even get through the door. You don't have to set them up with anything. They don't need to know any new passwords. They already have everything that they've already got. And their phone, they can just tap a button and bang, they're in. Like, it's insane that we don't do it that way. But yeah, so I think something like that where I could have, maybe I will do it like for maybe like me and you and the kids and stuff. I can have like different versions of Wingman. Well, I could do, maybe I'll do Mikey first. He was the best sort of tester of Everest back in the day. It was similar sort of thing of saying like, you know, it makes sense to put the AI like into the work environment. So we had it inside like Discord and inside Slack and various things, and it was its own thing that it could run, but it was still effectively like a server paradigm. So whenever you had anything with files, it had to download stuff, it had to work locally. It was just too hard to do that inside something that would be deployable in that way. But if you did it like where it's its own computer, that works really nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a bunch of different objectives we could give it within our own business, other stuff as well. And then, you know, we've got another stuff Wingman. And that's like a good proof point as well when we go to show this to more people. It's, you know, I mean, the goal is for us as well, for anyone that's curious about it, is to just build this business with the two of us. You know, we don't really have any motivation to manage teams of people, and you know.
No, I'm done. That was my 30s.
That was the.
I'm not interested anymore.
That was the kind of the ambition. Day one was like, okay, we've got this like amazing piece of leverage. It would be remiss of us not to try and like push that as far as it would go. So how much can we achieve, just the two of us, deploying, you know, that leverage? I think that's kind of been the goal since day one, and how we go about doing it has been a conversation that's been a work in progress. But yeah, I feel like Wingman is definitely the answer. So
it's a primitive, right? Like you need something like this. Like it makes sense that you're going to have AI in the business. I think it became more obvious that AI needed to be more agentic.
Yeah.
As it became more agentic, like it wasn't an API call. Like there isn't you don't get agent APIs. You can't go to OpenAI and say, send an agent call to this. It's a completion call. It's the standard completion like thing, and then if you want the agent, you have to download something or use their tool. And it's like, so I think this goes like, this is a bit of a missing piece for me. It's like the agents need to be callable, and then I need to have some sort of UI that I can put them in that allows me to manage them, and I should be able to manage them like a team. So I think that's like where it's gone with Wingman. But it's been very natural, right? You know, built something, used it all the time. Then I stopped using bits of it because I was like, the particular agent I've got isn't good enough for this. So now I have all the agents. So now I can do anything that I was doing elsewhere, except now it's a nicer interface because my fucking pasting images works, whereas it didn't work half the time. Like a lot of the CLI stuff, because it's just a bit like, you know, particularly if you're doing a lot of like terminal emulation and different things, like copy and paste can fuck up in ways that it's not obvious because you're working on remote computers and you're emulating stuff, and then you've got like your pasting doesn't work very well. Like, all that works. It's just because it's just a web page. So I can paste whatever I want. I can take the whole chat history and just pull it out. Like I cannot easily get the whole chat history from Claude Code. And say, or I can click one button and I have it from Wingman. Which sounds like weird, but I can do.
That is annoying actually, because it would be nice to have like a like at least a summary of all of the stuff that's occurred. You know, it's been funny because like Claude Code has this tendency now to just write markdown documents for everything that it does and just spam them out throughout the project folder. And I'm just, I keep telling him like, just don't don't write all these MDs, but
is,
like that would be handy. Like
so
having
the key
like
there is you say like you have docs/temp, and then you git ignore that folder.
Yes.
And then it's like, look, you put everything in here, and I don't care because it's not going to get stuck on the repo. Like it doesn't give this history, but just always write your documents there.
That's a good way of doing it. Yeah. But it's having that
quick hint for the audience.
Yes, just dropping some alpha there. It's very good.
It's more alpha.
It's what was I going to say? Like, that summary of a session would be like quite handy. But it's amazing how it's like quite difficult to get that as well. It's not like you just go through and.
It's like, this is what I said like about the stack work days, right? When I was there, it's like fuck, there's so much like in parallel work going on at any one moment in time. Like I would go to bed and I almost wake up the next day and I'm like, what the fuck did I do yesterday? It's like I only got through this because I was like in the moment, like, and I was sending stuff off, people were doing stuff, it was coming back. It's like, what happened yesterday? Like, that's like, all right, how's it going? It's like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I just couldn't keep it all in my head. There's too many open tabs and stuff. Whereas, like, so now, this morning, I was just building a new little orchestration for Wingman. I'm trying out different things so I can figure out exactly how I want it to work. And like, so yesterday I was doing security reviews, like on anything any code that I've touched in the last 24 hours, I want a security review on it, and I want it like dumped in this folder with recommendations of what we should do to improve it. Yeah. And then this morning I was doing like, okay, give me a highlight, like go across the entire like coding directory inside here, like get me everything that's changed. Like, so use all the Git commit histories and all the file histories just to look at like everything that's changed, and then summarize it into a highlight report for me. Yeah. And it's like, this is the sort of thing that I want to have available at the start of the day, so I can go, all right, this is what I worked on yesterday. It's like, it's incredibly useful to have like a developer log of like all the changes that I've been going through, like all the things I've tried that I then abandoned. It's like, just give me all this stuff.
They're just good artifacts to have, to be able to look back on and figure out like, oh, I've already explored this like angle, so that, you know, when you spin up a new session, it's not going to re-explore that angle because you've already spent the tokens on that. You know it doesn't work. Don't waste your time there again.
Well, then I want to be able to just like, again, pull up another agent next to it and go, all right, so that report from yesterday, like this whole branch of stuff, like I've actually abandoned that, and for these reasons. So make a note. Yeah. And then it can reference that back. You know, it becomes like, okay, well, yes, there's a branch here, but this is an abandoned branch. Yeah. So like maybe I'll do like one more commit on that to say like this is abandoned. Okay, don't use it.
Again, like not dissimilar to how we would work ourselves. You know, we would keep these artifacts. We would write notes to ourselves. We would
write journal.
You know, like this is. It's kind of fascinating how like
relearning everything.
Yeah, it's almost like it's forced introspection into like how we work, and then we're like projecting that onto the agent, which I think is like, well, it's kind of nice. And
I remember like in university, I did a bunch of work with. We had this like big project that we had to do. We had this guy come in from BT that was like used to run like big projects in the 60s, 70s or something like that, or maybe not quite that old, but it was like early enough that computers weren't good and the internet wasn't really a thing. Yeah. And you talk about like how structured you had to be in your projects, and like all of these like different like I don't know, like quality assurance manuals and different techniques that you had to make sure that you could actually deliver something at the end of a long project or a big piece of work. And it all just sort of got thrown away. It was like saying the move from, you know, like punch cards and mainframes into personal computers, right? Or like you used to really consider what you were going to do before you did it. And then it became cheap enough to just do stuff that you stopped considering it. And I don't know why, but it's almost like there's something about this. It's almost like you go so far down this like speed loop of just being like everything's so quick now that you can get so confused because you can do so many things at the same time. Yeah. That you kind of need to relearn to go. I actually need to like write everything down and think about what I'm doing also. Because otherwise. I don't know, like there's something about it that's just, it does feel almost like I'm relearning the way work used to be done in the olden days, so that it could be handed off in a more structured manner.
Yeah, I think there's a reason for that architecture. Yeah. You know, like there was good scaffolding, I think, and the intention behind the scaffolding was to make sure that enough information flowed between people in an analog environment. so as to know what everyone is doing and where we're actually going and how we're doing it and best practice. And
I mean, it's just good, like, personal productivity stuff as well,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
Isn't it? Is that you would, if you're doing this stuff yourself, as you say, you would write down what you're going to do. Like, and if you don't write down what you're going to do, then you tend to just drift off doing something else. And then you haven't done what you expected to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But it is interesting as well, because one of the things I find where the ideas come from for me is actually in the doing sometimes as well. You know, like, for instance, you know, we spoke about this a bit yesterday. Like, I started experimenting with a new idea. I did say last week, I think, on the pod as well. It's like, I've got to stop starting new things.
Yeah, so you
and
started
just
a
like
new thing.
so of course I started a new thing. This is like the new it's the new buying a domain. You know, it's just like spinning up a new a new project.
That's true.
It's the equivalent. So
vibe coding is the new domain buy.
Well, obviously I was working on the kind of front end, the UI for supply drop. Just gonna like mention that. More info to come. But one of the things I found like quite useful at like, using web builders in the past was it's like all interface driven. You're literally like editing on the page in a drag and drop environment. And like I was going back and forth on like two different monitors with the like looking at the UI in a like locally hosted browser, and then going back to Claude Code to actually like type through like pretty long-winded paragraphs just to make small changes to, you know, like the corner rounding on a button, or like changing the font of a paragraph to make sure it's consistent with a different paragraph.
You should definitely use Super Whisper, by the way, because it's so much quicker to just say these.
To say it, yeah, of course, yeah. But like, obviously, you're trying to like transcribe back to Claude Code exactly which element you're talking about on the page.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I wonder if I could just build like a little bridge where I can actually comment in like kind of markup fashion on the actual browser.
Yeah.
Using a browser extension where I capture I click on the element that I want to edit, and then I just type in the change that I want, and then that transmits back to Claude Code and the CLI, and the change just pulls through. And I thought, well, that is quite interesting because we don't really have like a good like visual interface for making these changes. Like everything has to flow back through Claude Code, and then obviously Claude Code released Claude Code for the web, but it doesn't really have that like front end design interface. A bit like having like a Webflow or something equivalent, but the work is just done by Claude Code behind the scenes. And so I started building that out, and obviously like the first iteration of it like I was like, maybe I could use like a bridge server, and then just have like the two ends connect via the bridge server. And so I called it Pontifex, which obviously, working title, not great because it's literally the Pope's handle, but it means bridge builder. So that was kind of like the rationale behind it. But I just got to the point where I was like, oh, this is like actually quite complex. Like, I don't think this will work. And also, it's not like I could just ask Claude Code how to do this, because Claude Code doesn't have a good understanding of its own capabilities. So I was like, oh, shit, I've actually got to try and like figure out how to do this. And then obviously we were talking, and like the first iteration of it just works with clipboard. So I will literally be able to type this stuff out. It will framework out the element in like a structured set of text, so like list out which element on the screen I'm describing. The key change that needs to be made from what to what, and then it just copies it to the clipboard, and then I go back to the CLI and I paste it in there, and off it goes. And it's got enough context, but it's saving me like having to type all of that out. It's still a bit manual, so I was kind of like, I was playing with it last night, just going like, is this really valuable? It's still like a manual step. And then I was looking into, could I use a plugin from Claude Code to actually get it to just feed through?
I would say just that. I think Clipboard is fine. If
It
you
works,
can get it into Clipboard, then you can put it
anywhere.
Yeah. Because there's no, I mean, even with like any bridge stuff, like you don't know whether then Claude Code just invalidates
exactly
whatever it is you've just
done. That's where the complexity was. But I think like part of the rationale for it was, especially on the like when you're doing web front end work, there's usually different stakeholders. Like it's fine for us because like you and I are just doing this stuff on our own, or there's the two of us, and we'll bounce stuff between us. But when you've got like teams of people, or you've
Yeah.
got clients. Like everyone wants to insert their input, and so part of it was like, oh, what if I could just have this like visual design interface for like third parties, where they can actually just, because you're building for them, you can actually just like write up your markups on screen, and that just feeds back to Claude Code, and you can edit it. Just kind of removes a layer of work. But yeah, there's complexity there. So I'm like working through how to figure that out. And normally I would just problem solve this stuff with one of these models, but obviously Claude doesn't have a good idea of how to actually solve this problem. So, but yeah, that was like another thing. But to loop that back to what we're talking about, like it's just easy to get to that like 95% stage of the project where it just works. Like this will just work on my machine, and it is saving me time because I'm obviously having to type less into Claude Code, and it's specificity. So now I don't have to like necessarily like make the change 2 or 3 times, because sometimes you'll type this stuff in Claude Code and it'll change 2 or 3 things. And it's like you only wanted it to change 1 thing.
Yep.
So that specificity and the scaffolding just helps straight away. So that is useful as a browser extension. But yeah, and I mean, that took me like a couple hours, I think, to build. So, and it does make you wonder. You can just apply this internally in an organization. It's like, what are all of the little challenges that hold me up?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, again, to link back to what we're talking about, the animus has always been like, how do we increase margin? How do we increase revenue? How do we like release new products and services? Well, like, what are the things that we do every day that take up our time, that add cost into the business, that reduce margin? Like, can I just turn this on?
If you get back to like the accounting or like, I don't know, consulting world or something like that, you would often see like the better consultants or accountants are the ones that have created all of their own spreadsheets that do miraculous things. Like, and they'll take the time to go like, oh, this is annoying.
Yeah.
Like I can make this 5 times quicker if I just do this, or I just do this, or I add this macro, or I do this, or I add these like formulas, and then all of a sudden, like, they speed themselves up and everybody else around them.
Yeah.
And like, this is why so many like large organizations ran in Excel. You know, as a Rolls-Royce, like the whole company used to run on like massively complex like spreadsheets that like some guy had done in the past.
Yeah.
That was like part of the the animus behind the program that we were in. Was like, okay, this needs to be correct. Like, we can't just rely on Excel for this shit. But it's because it gives people access to this. Okay. Like, you give them tools and they can fix their own problems, and that's an amazing thing.
I think so.
All right. Well, maybe that's a good place to.
It's a good lesson.
Pull up here is that, like, you can use tools to fix your own problems, and AI is going to be very useful for that. So learn to use the tools.
Agreed. Very good.
All right. That brings us up on the hour. That's the good stuff.